One of the really interesting bits of the book, and this does pertain to his, his canonization, is this kind of ongoing um, struggle with vanity
Yes.
and ambition, which you are very frank about. This is something that, he had a lifelong kind of vanity that he admitted in his autobiography, which was written very late in his life. That he sort of repented of some of these things. So can you give me just like a complete overview of where that is, going from his young life, his time as a student, praying every day that he would become a bishop someday, and things like that, you know.
He definitely wanted to become a bishop from an early age, but not as a little boy, but from a very early age he had wanted to be a priest. He was a pretty child, and he was a smart little boy. And pretty smart little boys get patted on the head quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so, he would be the valedictorian, he'd be the first in his class, he would get this, he would get that award. Um, and I think he sort of took those as his due. But when Cardinal Spellman invited him to go to Asia with him, he realized that Americans are incredibly privileged and wealthy compared to the world's poor, the third world's poor.
Mm-hmm.
Those lepers in the Philippines, those really beggar children in India, all that brought home to him how privileged America was, and especially how privileged he was.
Hmm.
I will say that he tried to empty himself in many ways. His was kind of a kenotic spirituality where he hardly ate anything. So what do you give? Alms, praying, and what's the third thing?
Fasting.
Penance.
Yeah.
And so he led a very penitential life. He hardly ate anything. And all this was to control his own vanity.
Hmm.
I mean, he did admit that when he became a bishop, oh my gosh, this was wonderful. People were kissing my ring, and they were giving me special deference. And but then he
He
realized,
liked the clothes. He liked the,
oh yeah, he
the
liked the
limousines.
limousine. He
Yeah.
he liked all of that, and yet he was aware that that wasn't reality for him.
Hmm.
One of the things he said is that if you're believe in the Holy Spirit and you believe in life after death, you know that how do I want to phrase this? What happens here is not that important.
Mm-hmm.
You are not that important,
Mm-hmm.
except as a child of God. That's where your importance lies, as a child of God. And Sheen, I think, was very aware of his shortcomings. Eventually, he started wearing a hair shirt.
Hmm.
You mentioned his autobiography. It's called Treasures in Clay. He said that God didn't call angels to be priests, he called men.
Hmm.
And particularly, he felt he was standing on feet of clay because everything, it was just on the tightrope between heaven and earth.
Right. Right.
It was, and he did the holy hour every day. He started that when he was in seminary, after having had what he thought of as a uh, mystical moment. Something
Mm-hmm.
happened. He was in the middle of a class, and suddenly there was some infusion into his intellect, a warm light. He couldn't really describe the warm light. It was coming, it was on the inside of him, going out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he has no idea how long this experience lasted, but when he sort of came to, the class was being dismissed. So
Hmm.
a good part of an hour, maybe, who knows, if other people realized he was undergoing a spiritual conversion of his own. But after that, he kept the holy hour every day of his life.
Hmm.
He one time was so intent on doing a holy hour that he was between flights. He's been, flying here, there, and everywhere, and so he decided that he would go into this church here between flights, and he'd have the holy hour. Well, he was so exhausted he fell asleep, and he said then he woke up exactly on the hour, and he said, "Well, I guess I did my holy hour."
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So his
So go ahead.
so he empties himself of many things, but then he fills himself up with Jesus in the Eucharist.